Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is your US Open golf preview. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined by oddschecker's very own golf tipster, Niall Lyons, as we look ahead to the next 4 days of golf over the weekend, the third major of the year at the Los Angeles Country Club North Course. Niall, how are you doing, mate? How are you getting on?
Yeah, not too bad. The weather's good in Ireland for 2 weeks here, so it's quite surprising, and you're not used to this kind of heat. But yeah, not much golf, not much playing these days, but looking forward to watching the US Open this week.
Yeah, you just asked me when we came onto the Skype call if I had been for a run because I'm so sweaty, but it's just a walk from the tube station to my office. So that is an indicator, and it's only 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm playing golf this morning, so that could be interesting. It could be a hot one. Let's get into the preview then. And as we always do before we get into your selections and we talk through the market a bit, normally it feels like, especially over, for some reason, the last couple of years, the courses that we've seen major tournaments played at, obviously we have the repeated Augusta, but in terms of the US Open, the US PGA and the Open Championship, there haven't been that many surprises, whereas this feels a bit trickier because, LACC is a private course. We haven't seen any professional events there. We don't know much about it. Now, given what's going on in golf at the moment, it feels fitting that we've got a course that basically straddles Beverly Hills and Hollywood because it's going to be pretty box office no matter what happens. But in terms of the actual course itself, what have you gleaned in terms of the challenges that will pose the players? What kind of player you think will go well there?
Yeah, it's not easy, as you say. It's a George Thomas design, and it's been redesigned lately for this US Open by Gil Hansen. He's renovated a right number of courses down the last few years, and most recently probably Southern Hills for the PGA last year. This course is definitely quirky. It's not quite Chambers Bay or anything like that, but it is different to the standard US Open courses that we've seen. Even the last PGA at Oak Hill, they've all seemed to favour the massive hitters. The fairways are usually narrowed, which favours the big hitters too. This is slightly different. The fairways are definitely wider. I was talking to Ben Everill, an Australian golf journalist, just last night, who's on the ground there, and he was confirming the fact that the rough at the side of the fairways isn't anywhere near as high as usual for a US Open. And the challenge really is your second shots into small greens with a lot of rough around the greens as well. That's where your problem lies. If you miss the green, you'll have a bad lie and you'll have trouble gouging it out and judging really distance to the hole. You'll do well to leave yourself within a 10-foot range. It's going to play very firm and fast as well, again, which doesn't really suit the longer hitters. That gives more rope to those guys who are more accurate. The ball runs out, and I think the wider the fairways as well, that suits the shorter hitters too, because the more you narrow the fairways, undoubtedly in these majors in the past couple of years, it's suited the likes of Bruce Koepka and the likes of Bryson DeChambeau too. So you couldn't really rule out anyone in the field. There's a lot of slopes on the fairways, a lot of elevation changes between holes as well. It's a typical Gil Hanse look, that rugged bunkers. It's more natural looking. So I think a lot of imagination will come into play with recovery shots, even off the fairway. If you spread it very wide, there's a lot of barrancas running through the course. Reminds me of kind of Marion in 2013 where Justin Rose won. But yeah, another one of his designs is Riviera, which is only down the road, obviously. And Augusta form has always played out well there. Anyone who plays well at Riviera. Most of them have a good record at Augusta too, and that could translate to this week simply because of the slopes on the fairways and the elevation changes. That reminds you of Augusta, wider fairways also as well, with not so heavily punished bad drives. So yeah, there's an Augusta element to it too. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out, but it's certainly a quirkier design than some recent US Open or PGA venues.
Well, let's get into your selections. The column went live on Monday, and you've always been, and you've certainly won me over with this line of thinking in recent years, a believer that players who are consistently challenging in majors, that is a trend that you can follow. And we've seen it in recent years culminate in a victory at the end of that. Scottie Scheffler's win at Augusta a couple of years ago, Cameron Smith's win in the Open Championship last year kind of came off the back of consistent runs in major tournaments. It's hard to find somebody playing better in majors than Viktor Hovland at the moment. He's your headline selection 3-point win at 17-1. I mean, it's pretty easy to make a case for Vic this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was guilty of maybe being a little too harsh on him after the Masters, following his effort at St Andrews as well, that he maybe wasn't coping with the pressure on the final days. That it was the main reason why I backed him at Augusta, that he had got the experience in a final group at St Andrews. It didn't quite work out for him, and I thought he would have improved a lot for that. It didn't really happen at Augusta. The final day, I think he held like about a 12-footer on the first for a par, and then I think it was another 10-footer on the fifth for a par as well. And you were thinking maybe that this could be Hovland's day here. It didn't go well from then on, and it was the reason why I didn't back him at the PGA, and I was very nearly punished heavily for that. But there was no signs of those problems at Oak Hill against Brooks Koepka. Just to stay with Koepka those final 18 holes, given the golf that he was playing, was an unbelievable feat, and it was just much better than the previous two majors. But for a bit of bad luck in the 70th hole, a bad lie in that bunker, he could have won. I was very impressed with his course management that day as well. Not really firing the pins, mainly going 10, 20 feet left of him. I think it was a good ploy, and it was quite impressive. And as we say, it's just stepping stones towards winning that major. It's been a prevalent stat in the last couple of years that guys have just got used to the air there in a pressure in a major championship cooker, like in pressure cooker in the final couple of groups. So Hovland has got that. He won up Muirfield Village last time out, his first win in mainland America as well, at Jack Nicklaus's place, a huge feather in his cap. It's an obvious selection, just like Rahm and Scheffler in the last couple of years, but we've been guilty of ignoring those obvious selections too in the past. So he's the same price as Patrick Cantlay, which I just can't really have. Patrick Cantlay is still yet to be in contention in one of these major championships down the final few holes. And Cantlay also only has one stroke play win in the last 18 months. So I think Hovland's a much better bet at the price, and I'm hoping he can just kick on for that effort at Oak Hill. And as I said, I was talking to Ben Everett last night, and Viktor Hovland has an Australian caddy, which he knows quite well. And he told Ben that Hovland was quite angry after that final day at Oak Hill, and that it wasn't the usual jovial, happy-go-lucky Viktor Hovland that he would usually see. He was angry. He was annoyed that he didn't win, and I think that spurred him on and gave him that extra kick to go on and win at Muirfield Village. And there's every chance that he arrives here in the same fashion and goes and wins his first major here on Sunday.
Great stuff. Viktor Hovland, the headline selection, you put him up at 17-1. That's an enhanced price for Bet365. So you have to look for the winner on your market there about Viktor Hovland. Second up, and we talk about Hovland being the best or one of the best in the game at the moment when it comes to major championships. Tyrrell Hatton is playing some of the most consistent golf in the world currently. A brilliant run on Sunday saw him fall just one shot shy at the playoff in the Canadian Open. But you think you've seen enough of his game recently to think that he could go well here? And the second selection is Tyrrell Hatton. What is it? 2 points each way at 30-1. Again, that's for Bet365, who are paying a 58 places.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't quite have the experience in the final couple of groups that Viktor Hovland's had recently, but he's going well in major championships. He's got 3 top 15 finishes in his last 5. I think he's maturing into that kind of golfer who could win a major. Obviously, his temperament's been questioned down the years, but I think I think he's just about ready for this, and the golf that he's played this season has been incredible. He's played the hard golf course as well. He was second to Scottie Scheffler at Sawgrass, and he was fourth at the Arnold Palmer, which played quite tough as well. Third in Canada at the weekend, as you say, and he faced a big setback there. He double bogeyed the eighth hole in the final day. He actually went out towards 300 or 400 to 1. And then when Nick Taylor didn't look like he was birdieing the 72nd, he was in the sub 3 to 1 again. It was a big move, a big comeback for him there in the back nine. And maybe just unlike Fleetwood, he doesn't have the scars coming here after that. Fleetwood will do very well to pick himself up off the floor after that at the weekend. He had a great chance. He kind of messed it up there in the 72nd hole, laying up in the rough, and he'll do well to recover. Even though he was high up on my list before this, but he didn't quite make the list after that marathon at the weekend. But yeah, Hatton seems ready. He was sixth at Shinnecock in 2018, one of the firmest and fastest US Opens in the last decade or so. I mean, he ranks third in total strokes gained this season, behind Rahm and Scheffler. That's an amazing feat. Third, given the golf that they've played, but yet there's 12 or 13 golfers priced ahead of him in the field. So yeah, I'm just hoping that if he does manage a double bogey or a bogey here and there, that he doesn't quite lose the head. But I think he's maturing into steady golfer now, and his results show that this season. I think he's had 5 top 5 finishes in the PGA Tour, which is a great return for an Englishman over there. So yeah, I'm hoping he can kick on from good golf at the weekend too, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's right up there on Sunday.
Joe Hatton, the second selection there, 2 point each way at 30 to 1. But Niall, you'll be devastated to hear that your third selection is my biggest fancy of the weekend. I feel dirty saying it. It would be a pretty typical winner given what's going on in the world of golf right now. Bryson DeChambeau, 1.5 points each way at 40 to 1. Looked a pretty polished, a pretty back to his best Bryson. I think when everyone was focusing on Koepka's return, and rightly so, maybe it went under the radar just how well Bryson played in the PGA Championship a couple of weeks ago. And I think he was a triple figure price going to that one, but at 40 to 1 about a player who we know his quality when he's at his best. There's still a bit of juice in that price.
Yeah, it's a healthier Bryson DeChambeau we're seeing here as well. He's different looking. He's got a new diet. He looks a lot better. He looks a lot healthier. And his fourth place at the PGA was impressive enough. He stalled somewhat on the final day, shooting level par. And I remember saying to you that I thought Koepka was a bit of a lay heading into the final day of the Masters, just simply because of what he had. He hadn't really competed in the pressure cooker of a major in a way, and that played out. But it's Bruce Koepka after all, and he learned quite quickly going on to win the PGA. Bryson DeChambeau is somewhat in the same mold. He can learn pretty quickly from his final day at the PGA as well. He's hitting it very long these days and extremely accurate. He's hitting more fairways than he ever has done in the last number of weeks. He won a very firm and fast Arnold Palmer Championship back in 2021 at Bay Hill. So he's got the form in the bag for that kind of test. His Gil Hands form is incredible. No one comes here with better form on Gil Hands redesigns. His win at Winged Foot, the US Open at Winged Foot, was a Gil Hands redesign. He won at Ridgewood and TPC Boston as well. So 3 wins on Gil Hands renovations is quite impressive. And yeah, I just think he can kick on from his 4th place there at the PGA as well, and just kind of do what Koepka did after the Masters.
Yeah, looks well set to go well again. As I say, might not be the most popular winner amongst golf fans, but you and I will certainly be cheering him on if he's in contention come Sunday evening. Another, English player who went well at the Canadian Open was Justin Rose, a player who looks trending back towards his best kind of golf after a really difficult couple of years or so, putting brilliantly, hitting the ball well. Rose 40 to 1, also 1.5 points each way. Sorry, 45 to 1 you put him up at, but now all of that has gone. Best price. Well, you're getting 45 to 1 so Unibet, 40 to 1 with Boyles and a couple of others.
Yeah, obviously, as I say, another who played good golf at the weekend. I think this could just turn into a bit of a grind at the weekend where, this will get tougher as the weekend goes on. I think they'll set it up the easiest they can, maybe for Thursday and Friday. But it's a US Open after all, and they'll try and protect par come the weekend. And I think that'll bring out the likes of Justin Rose and maybe one or two other veterans. But Rose is playing great golf this year. He obviously got back into the winner's circle again at Pebble Beach. Uh, but he's played well. He was sixth at Sawgrass as well, then ninth at the PGA. And that's what you're looking to, obviously. We've talked about it time and time again. Guys who played well in the previous major, and it's foolish not to include a couple in your staking plan. Uh, I've mentioned the similarities to Marion back in 2013. I think it's quite a similar course. Now, he won that US Open at 1 over par. I don't think it's going to be that tough. Uh, but there's certainly similarities. The Brancas ran through that course too. There wasn't the little water, just those shocks that we're talking about, and uh, similar similar type of toughness, I would say, coming here this week. That'll play over Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, I just think he's playing too good golf to ignore. He hasn't been outside the top 25 in his last five efforts, five appearances in tour, and he's good form in California too. So yeah, I'm hoping for the best for Rose, and I just think he's one of those wily old foxes who could learn how to score here and just creep up the leaderboard as the week goes on.
Three more selections. Next up is a player who has drifted. I mean, we always say when quality players drift to a ridiculous price and they go and win, you wonder how and why not back them. I think if Justin Thomas does go and win at 40-1, there'll be a lot of people scratching their heads as to how someone who was a major winner just over 12 months ago in the PGA Championship could go off that bigger price, a serial winner as well in the past. You put him up 40-1, 10 places. That's with Paddy Power. He's as big as 45-1 elsewhere. That's with Unibet for only 7 places. I mean, he's not playing well, is he? I think that's fair to say, but there's no denying his quality if he has to bounce back to some form.
Yeah, it's the risk you take, obviously, and it's just as you say, it's one of those ones you'll be kicking yourself if he goes and wins and you weren't on. Simply because there's not enough evidence, I don't think, to suggest that he's not playing good enough golf to go and win a major championship. From tee to green, he's actually been not too bad. He missed a cut at the Masters, but we know he was on the wrong side of the draw there. And on the Saturday morning, the weather was absolutely horrific as he tried to make the cut, and it just didn't happen for him. He went after that to Harbour Town with 25th, 14th at Quail Hollow. Didn't play well at the PGA, didn't drive the ball well, and I don't care if he didn't drive the ball well there. He didn't drive it long or far. So neither of those statistics it's going to be very hard to score in that scenario. So it didn't work out for him at the PGA. He did make the cut, but then he missed the cut at the Memorial. But that was largely down to another poor performance on and around the greens. And on the greens has been a problem this year. He struggled with the putter. But we know that's fickle and we know it can turn around. But tee to green, there's been no, ball striking, let's say, off the tee and approach play. Hasn't been all that bad. And I think he comes here, for example, I would say he comes here, Matsuyama's quite consistent, but he comes here with a similar, off the tee and approach game to Hideki Matsuyama. And I think he's got obviously a much higher ceiling than Matsuyama. It's not that bad. He's only been outside the top 25 4 times in 12 appearances this year. So there's a lot been made of his diet. I think he's gone to a gluten-free, dairy-free diet, and people are maybe saying that this is contributing to some poor golf. I'm not entirely convinced. And I think a test like this could bring out the best in Justin Thomas. It did so at Southern Hills last year, and I just wouldn't be surprised. It's a chance you take. You're getting Justin Thomas at double the price that you normally would. So it's one I think I have to include in the staking plan.
JT, the 5th selection, 2 more. Wyndham Clark, got his first win on tour a couple of weeks ago in a dominant performance in the Wells Fargo in a decent field as well. And just a player who it feels like is trending very much in the right direction with his game. He is, you put him at 1 point each way at 60-1, 10 places. That is with William Hill as big as 80 to 1 with Betway, who are 5th to 6th. What makes you fancy Wyndham's chances?
Yeah, well, we were on him when he won at Quail Hollow, and
Hmm.
I think it's kind of easier to stay on the train if you've landed him once. And
Doesn't
I
owe you
think,
anything.
yeah, it was a hugely impressive performance there at Quail Hollow, and statistically the best of the season so far. He gave him more shots than anybody else has, and uh, his approach play this season has been on fire. He was second on approach at Bay Hill, third on approach at Copperhead, and then first at Quail Hollow. And he was first in putting at Quail Hollow as well. So it's no surprise that that was one of the best efforts of the season. He ranks 23rd on tour on approach play. Uh, and his driving is long and it's accurate as well. I think it's just perfect for this place. Last time out at Muirfield Village, he hit more fairways than he has this season as well. He ranked 26th in the field that week for fairways hit. So if he's managing to even hit it straighter than he normally does, that's an added bonus. But his irons are absolutely on fire. One of the best iron players on tour this season, and he's gone close in other events too. 5th at the Valspar, 6th in Punta Cana, 3rd in the Zurich. That was a team event, obviously. 12th last time out at the Memorial. He's playing such good golf, and I think he's one that I'm going to take a chance on just at the price around 60 or 66 to 1, simply because I think he's got a very high ceiling. Data Golf have him ranked 13th in the world, and I wouldn't entirely disagree with that. They've only got 12 players ahead of him, and yet there's 30 ahead of him in the betting in the field. There's about 30 players ahead of him in the betting. So, yeah, I think we were on the right side of him at Quail Hollow, backing him at a good price. And I think this is around a similar price as what we backed him at that week, even though this is a major. But I think I definitely think he's got the talent on the ceiling to go and win one. And one of the prevalent trends too is a win earlier on in the season to win these majors too. So he's got plenty going for him, and he's sneaky long. I think he's just as long as many of the golfers towards the top of the market. So yeah, I'm quite excited about Wyndham Clark this week actually.
Lovely. You've got to call them correctly once already this season. Let's hope you can do it again. Wyndham Clark at the penultimate selection. And then one at a massive price. 500 to 1, 10 places. Joel Dahmen. What you called it a Hail Mary bet in the column. What is it about Joel's chances that you like?
It's a total Hail Mary. His recent form is cut 69th, 68th cut. There's absolutely no reason to think that he could turn it around, to be fair. But he's played decent off the tee. On his day, he's an excellent ball striker. He really, really, really is. He's had problems with a short game down the years, especially the putter. But this season, from tee to green, this is his best tee to green season, really, since he came on tour. He's playing well around the greens this season, better than he has done. This is his best season around the greens. He played quite well around the greens at Memorial too, only missing the cut. But the reason why I'm kind of keen on him at 5, there's always a surprise towards the top of the leaderboard, isn't there? And none of us ever have it. None of us ever backed him. None of us. There's always one towards the top of the leaderboard at a massive price. And I thought to myself this time around, I'm gonna try and nail it. And there's rarely reason behind why this guy is at the top of the leaderboard towards the weekend in a major. So I'm taking a chance on Joel Dahmen. He won at Punta Cana a couple of years ago, and that was really, really windy. And at the weekend there, especially on Sunday, and it was very, very difficult to control distance with your approach play, and very difficult to control distance from around the greens. And I think that's going to be a big thing if you're in the rough around the green. It's just controlling the gouge towards the pin, trying to get yourself within 10 feet or whatever. That was a difficulty at Punta Cana that week with the wind, and he went into that tournament on the back of 6 missed cuts in his last 7. So he won out of absolutely nowhere. So I'm taking the chance that similar could happen here, just with a few similar traits. This definitely isn't a Punta Cana type golf course, obviously, but just the skills that were needed on that Sunday with the really high winds, just judging distance and stuff. I'm just hoping that maybe similar can play out and we could get some kind of run on the 10 places at a 500 to 1 shot.
Can I give you my 400 to 1 shot, maybe become a match bet.
Well,
Austin Eckroach is my big price fancy. He's, I think, one of these players who probably in a year's time will be, an 100 to 1 shot for these majors. He's 24 years old. He's trending very much in the right direction. You look at his last 3 starts, came second at the 18th at Byron Nelson, 16th at Charles Schwab, 30th at the Memorial. He's made 5 cuts in a row, and his tee to green general kind of strokes gained is up there with, it's kind of top 50 stuff. So, and he was hot with the putt at the Byron Nelson as well. Just feels like he's a player that basically no one knows about yet, who people will know about pretty soon if he continues playing the way that he's playing. I think he's only, in his last 12 or so rounds on the PGA Tour, he's only had negative strokes gains twice, which is pretty impressive for somebody who's that big a price. Big ask, given that he's only had 1 major start, and that was as an amateur in the 2019 US Open, where he very much missed the cut. But let's see how he goes. We can have a match bet on the side.
That's a very good shout. In fact, I agree with you there, and he doesn't quite have the length off the tee that some other golfers has, but he's extremely accurate, and I do think the wider fairways will suit those guys who don't hit the ball as far. It gives them more rope, gives them more of a chance. If they hit the ball straight, then they're going to get a lot of run out with very little rain here in the past 3 months. Yeah, so that's not a bad shout at 400 to 1.
I'm going to watch him go on the exchange now as you suddenly log in. Right. Those are the selections. You can find all of Niall's tips up on the oddschecker app or up online as well. And read all of the justifications for those, if he hasn't persuaded you with his chat there. I'm just looking through the other players we haven't mentioned just quickly. We've got 10 minutes or so to go through this. Scottie Scheffler has been backed overnight. He was kind of 15 to 2 best price. There's still a bit of 7 to 1. That 7 to 1 is with Victor, Betfred, 10 bet, Parry Match. The best place subs getting there is with Betfred, who are 8 places. The Shaw's 11 to 2 with Betfair Sportsbook, who are 12 places. I've never really seen anything like Scottie's season this season, where if he could putt, Niall, like an average PGA Tour player, how many wins do you think he'd have at this calendar year?
Well, I think he would have won his last 4 tournaments.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It really, really is. This is Tiger figures here from tee to green, if not even better. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely incredible golf. But I'm somewhat surprised that there's been a move on him in the last 24 hours. I'm surprised. I expected a drift, if anything, simply because of, 2 reasons. The putter obviously being one. He's got a massive problem with it. And I was reading a stat just before studying this. I can't actually remember what it was, but it was something along the lines of there hasn't been a major winner in the last number of years who has come in with such negative strokes gained putting. Now, obviously, there's never been a golfer coming in with such positive numbers tee to green either. But then, so the putter's obviously a big problem, and then I can't get it out of my head. George, that surely a more ordinary week from tee to green is on its way.
Yeah,
Can he continue this? If we were looking at someone who was putting, he fits the bill of somebody who's playing so well and putting poorly that he can't continue to putt so poorly. But then he's playing so good tee to green that you wonder how long he can keep this up. But he's been keeping it up for a very long time. And yeah, as you say, the big problem is with the flat stick. And if he manages to putt well, then he could blow the field apart. And he's in the position. If you haven't backed Scottie Scheffler this week and you're looking for an angle, maybe it's to lead after every round and win. I think you can get a tasty price of 66 to 1 and above towards 100 to 1 for maybe something like that, and or to lead after the first round and win, or to win by 3-4 shots. You could get upwards of 20 to 1 to win by 4 shots. I think there are your kind of angles maybe you'd look to for Scottie Scheffler, because if he puts well enough to win, he could blow the field apart.
Yeah, it's just crazy, when you're looking at his form. And I backed him each way 10 places purely because you look at how poorly he putted in the Masters, and he still managed to sneak in with a tied 10 finish. You look at his strokes lost putting. basically every week, and he still manages to finish. I mean, he lost 2 shots per round putting the Memorial and still finished third. A shot around at the Charles Schwab and still finished third. Like, it feels like, you can almost compensate for the fact that he'll come last in the field for putting, and he'll still probably land the place. It's just bizarre. And as you say, I like that angle, as you say, because you do think if suddenly the putting does click. I mean, I can't remember. Was he, when he kind of burst on the scene, in my mind, kind of 21, his putting was like solid. He was a good putter. Like, I don't really understand what has changed, especially for someone who's so clutch at winning.
Yeah, this is comfortably his worst season on tour, strokes gained putting. So it's a surprise just how far he's gone. But I was talking to Matt Cooper last night as well, and he was of the opinion that he doesn't think he's quite as bad as a putter as maybe what's being made out, simply because we see all of his putts, and he's got that many putts, inside 10 or 15 feet that we see, and you're just seeing everything. Well, that's clouding everyone's judgment. But again, the numbers are there. It's just not working out for him. But wow, he could blow the field apart. And I know you've backed him this week, and I think I may get on board maybe with some of those fancier prices to win by 4+ shots, and maybe after every round. As a little interest just in case.
A couple more are sure to be popular. Jon Rahm is 10-1, the Masters winner. Brooks Koepka, the other major champion this season, is 12-1 best price. That's a bet Victor, only 5 places. You're probably looking at 11 places if you want some of the fancier pace terms. And then Rory McIlroy, who just had the most Rory McIlroy week you're ever going to see in Canada. Playing his way into contention, and then on Sunday, just not really showing up whatsoever. What do you make of their chances to the price?
Probably Jon Rahm was the most interesting of those 3. He's obviously got 4 wins this season. He's playing great. Got his Masters win. He's playing really impressive stuff from tee to green too. He's had a couple of bad putting weeks across the season, but generally speaking, he's one of the best putters of those guys who are consistently great from tee to green. The test should suit him. He's won a US Open in California before, so yeah, I can see him go well. And around 11-1, he was probably the most interesting of a lot. I think Koepka's maybe gone a bit too short, and McIlroy is just finding far too many ways not to win. I think he's maybe dealing with some things off the golf course too, which are maybe affecting some of his golf. He's obviously dealt with a lot in the PGA Tour in the last 12 months as well, and maybe things have just got a bit on top of him. So yeah, out of those 3, Rahm was definitely the most interesting, and it'd be no surprise if he's up there come Sunday. He could be a hard one to beat in California with his form.
Certainly could be. Before we let you go, I'm going to ask about Jordan Spieth, because I always do. He's 28-1 here. Some fitness issues, but looks to be playing decent enough golf. Was he hard to leave off the list?
Yeah, extremely hard, and my goodness, what I'll have to live through at the weekend if he's holding putts and I'm not on. He played absolutely great stuff at the Memorial last time out, finishing 5th. Absolutely excellent through the bag. He's had some short game problems recently, mainly to blame for his miscut at Quail Hollow and at the Charles Schwab. But it's Jordan Spieth, and he's had a very good year. He's had 5 top 5 finishes this season. Should have really won the Heritage too. He had a lipped out putt to win there against Matt Fitzpatrick. He had a great putt that just somehow managed not to go in. And I think, as I mentioned earlier on, there's similarities to Augusta which will really suit him, the slopes, and more so imagination and recovery shots from just off the fairway and from around the greens. There's nobody better in the game for imagination and coming up with ideas and ways to get the ball close to the hole when you think it's impossible. So this test could really, really suit Jordan Spieth. My slight worry was that I would prefer him just to have played better in the last major championship, but again, it was short game problems there and they can easily be turned around. So Yeah, I'll be a happy man if Jordan Spieth goes and does it. To be fair, from that on, I love the guy, and uh, yeah, it'd be great to see him do it all the same.
Certainly would. Before we let you go, Niall, you always do a good preview in the specials market as well, which I hope we can expect on the oddschecker site and app in the next couple of days before tee off on Thursday. Anything that you can kind of sneakily preview to the viewers and listeners to this show?
Yeah, I quite like Siwoo Kim in the top Asian market. He was fourth in the Memorial the last time out. He's absolutely brilliant on and or around the greens, not on them. Putter is the problem with him. Uh, but he's 14th on tour, strokes gained tee to green this season. He's obviously got to win a Sawgrass before he's played the hard golf course as well. He's just about long enough to contend for US Open off the tee. He's got a win in California in the American Express as well. And I think it's just maybe a slight weak Asian market. I don't think Hideki Matsuyama is playing as good at golf as he's capable of. Sung Jae Im's now missed a couple of cuts following his win in Korea. And Tom Kim's gone off the boil too. He's missing cuts as well. And you've got about 5 Asians towards the bottom of the market, all highly odds on to miss the cut. So there was 4-1. I don't know if it's still there, but there was 4-1 available yesterday, 3 places. And yeah, I think Siwoo Kim can take down that Asian market.
Lovely stuff. As I say, look out for Niall's preview of the specials markets up on the oddschecker site and on the app over the next couple of days. Make sure you subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel so you can find all the oddschecker betting shows. We have a preview for Alaska coming out later in the week. I'll be sitting down with Andy Holding in the studio later on this week to go through the card for next week's Royal Ascot. So make sure you do say subscribe for that and keep an eye out for Niall's previews and tips over the course of this weekend. Hopefully a couple of winners in there. Thanks, Niall, as ever, for sharing your tips and insight. We'll be back later on in the week. But in the meantime, please do enjoy the golf and ensure that you're gambling responsibly.